Hey TCSTV viewers, it's Dave and Evelyn from the Camera Store, and thank you so much for tuning in for a special TCSTV Live with a guide to feminine posing with Irene Rudnyk.
Now, Irene runs a very popular YouTube channel with a whole bunch of videos talking about different tips and techniques of how to photograph, and she does amazing portrait work.
Yeah, I also call her the master of portrait Photoshop. She does some fantastic stuff, so you definitely have to check out her YouTube channel. And sorry about that. I also want to let you know that Canon Canada is sponsoring this event tonight in partnership with the Camera Store. So we're offering something special for all the people that registered. And so if you're in Canada, you can take advantage of this offer. We're going to be emailing it out to everyone along with a survey about tonight. And so if you didn't register, we also have an email in the description below. You can send us an email and we can give you all of the details on that offer.
It is also the Canon Level Up sale here in Canada, so there are a ton of great deals on Canon gear. So make sure you check out all those details at thecamerastore.com.
Yes, and one last thing, I want to let you guys know that we are doing another live virtual event this weekend on Saturday, May 1st called the Virtual Photography Gear Trade Show. And this is exciting because it's a realistic sort of virtual reality experience with show specials, prizes, a keynote presentation, lots of gear talks, tech talks and demos. And if you want to join us for this, we still have tickets available, and we have a special coupon code in the description below to get you free admission.
I think it's going to be a very cool event. It's going to be interactive. It's amazing.
Yeah. So behind the scenes, we have our TCSTV Dream Team with Gary and Drew. And so they're making sure everything goes really smoothly for us tonight. So thank you to them. And then lastly, I just want to give you guys some options on how you can ask questions. So if you have any questions for Irene during the show, put them in the comments if you're logged into YouTube. And if you're not logged into YouTube, you can also just email them to me at evelyn@thecamerastore.com. My email address is also in the description. So there's a couple options there for how you can connect with us. And at the end of the presentation, we will get to all those questions live. So without further ado, let me introduce to you Irene Rudnyk. Hey, Irene.
Hey guys, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for that great introduction. Finally, I'm not like at my office trying to stream because I always have some kind of technical difficulties. I'm very technically challenged, and you guys have an amazing team that put all of this together, so I'm super excited.
Awesome. Well, before we get into your posing talk, we want to talk a little bit about gear because we are, of course, at the Camera Store. And so we have a couple questions for you.
Yes, so you've been a long-time Canon user, now you're a Canon ambassador, which is amazing. Now, have you noticed a big difference? You're, of course, using the new R5, switching from the EF mount and the older bodies to the new generation RF series.
Oh my God, I mean, it's a huge change for me, a change that I'm very, very happy with. I started off with Canon, like my very first camera that I bought was a Canon Rebel XS with a kit lens, and I'm pretty sure I actually bought it here at the Camera Store, which is pretty cool. Then I moved on to 5D Mark II and 5D Mark III, and I've used those cameras for like years and years on my YouTube channel. The reason why I decided to switch to mirrorless was mostly because I personally absolutely love shooting wide open. I love bokeh. I love separating the subject from the background. And so R5 has an amazing autofocusing system, and that was one of the main reasons why I really wanted to make that switch. Now when I shoot with the R5, I don't have to worry about the images being sharp at all. When I come home, I know that 99% of the pictures are like tack sharp, and so during the photo shoot I can focus on things that are more important, like lighting and the posing and the composition, things like that. I also absolutely love the electronic viewfinder. I use a lot of like vintage lenses, and I also use some of the manual lenses, and so having like focus assist and focus peaking on the R5 makes it so easy to use those lenses. And then with the EF lenses that I also have and also use on my R5, like probably a lot of people, I was a little bit, you know, scared, like, are these lenses gonna work on the new cameras? Will I be able to use them? And I was really pleasantly surprised that actually the EF lenses work even better on the R system. Like, they are faster, they are sharper, and again, you will get just more out of them on the R system. So just get the Canon adapter and you will be able to use your EF old lenses with like no problem at all.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. Why don't you go ahead and get into your posing talk? We're so excited to hear what you have to say.
For sure. All right, so I decided to do the guide to feminine posing because it's one of my favorite topics to talk about, and because I think I have a little bit of a different view on how I teach posing. It's a little bit different from what I've normally seen other people do. I personally don't like rules. I like to break all the rules. So my guide is mostly focused on how to make your model feel really comfortable, really relaxed, how to make her pose or him pose naturally and just look very organically with the kind of environment that you have in your images. Also, at the very beginning of any workshop that I do, I always love to show my personal growth and where I've come myself. So the picture on the left is from 2010 when I just started doing photography, and the picture on the right is from 2019. Both of these are of my sister, which was one of my first models and who really helped me, to grow as a photographer and to become better at posing. What I want to just show you guys here is that if you are not very happy with posing right now or how you pose someone, just know that it takes practice, it takes years of just doing photography, and absolutely anyone can get good at it. When people tell me, I wish I was as talented as you, I then look at like my pictures from 2010 and think like, am I really super talented, or is it just that I developed a skill over the years and I nurtured that skill and I just became a better photographer? So posing is just one of those skills that you can become better at. Okay, so that's what I want you guys to know and remember. All right, so let's start at the very, very beginning and things that you can do before your photo shoot starts. Pinterest mood boards. I know all of you have heard about it. I'm pretty sure. If you haven't, then okay, I'm happy to introduce you to it because it's amazing. But the reason why I wanted to include it in this workshop is because every time I ask photographers, do you make a mood board for every single photo shoot that you're about to go to? They usually tell me no, or like I have Pinterest, but I don't do it all the time. And like, you really should start preparing a mood board for every single one of your photo shoots. That will help out to communicate with your model better about like what kind of concept you wanna do at the photo shoot. But also, it's an amazing resource for actually learning poses. So I actually have created many mood boards on just poses that I like. For example, here I did a photo shoot with 3 models, and it's a lot harder to come up with poses when you have multiple people in the shot. So for me, it was always really hard when I was shooting like couples, for example, or families together. The more people you have in there, the harder it gets to just kind of place everyone really nicely. So for this photo shoot, I had 3 beautiful models, and so I created a mood board on Pinterest where I found tons of really cool posing ideas for 3 models. And what I also suggest is getting an app on your phone so that you can always have it with you. So during the photo shoot where I'm not sure what pose to do next, I will show that exact pose on my phone to the models, and then we will go from there. So here's my mood board, here's the picture that I showed to the models, and here's the image that we came up with. So having something like this at your photo shoot is so beneficial, and it's just so easy to do. So again, highly recommend. If you guys do not have a Pinterest account yet, create it like right now. It's free and it's just amazing for overall inspiration, finding poses, finding some new concepts for your photo shoots. Okay, so definitely do that. The next one I want to talk about is actually Instagram, because I don't see a lot of people utilizing Instagram collections. So whenever I'm scrolling through Instagram and I see something really cool, let's say you see a pose that you really like, and let's say for example it's this picture that I took. I think it's a pretty cool pose. So what you can do is click this little button, the save button right here. You can see it, I circled it in red. Now in the next slide you will click on the plus button to create a new collection, and then you can name that collection, let's say poses, and then you will save it. So now to access that collection, let's say you saved a bunch of poses and you're at the photo shoot and you want to show the model the pose that she's going to do. You're going to click at the very top of your account the three little lines, then you're going to go to saved, and you're going to see a bunch of collections that you have created. You're going to find the poses collection, and then you can access the pictures from there. I actually love utilizing this for all sorts of things. Like I have models from all over the world in different folders. Like I have local models, models from Edmonton, models from all over the world. So I highly, highly recommend that you guys utilize this really, really cool feature on Instagram. All right, so another thing that you can do before the photo shoot starts is actually create a story for your model to act out. So I know that not a lot of people really think of models as actors, but I really do, and I really love working with models who are actors as well. When you create a storyline for them, it's going to be a lot easier for them to understand exactly what you want them to act out, the kind of emotion that you want them to portray, and the kind of story that you want to tell with your images. So I'll give you guys an example. For this specific photo shoot, I created this storyline. She is a farm girl, kind of like a little Bo Peep character. She's very romantic. She's kind of like heads in the clouds all the time, connected to nature. She loves reading. And let's say she was just taking care of her sheep, and then she decided to take a little break to sit down, you know, by the tree and read a book. So this is exactly what I told my model. I told her this little story, and immediately I could tell how inspired she became, and it's almost like a challenge for the models to kind of recreate that story with the posing and the emotion, and this is the kind of result that we got with the storyline that I created. So let me give you another example. This is another one of my favorite photo shoots. For this one, I actually told the model that she lives in a Ukrainian village and she's in love. She has a boyfriend. He's actually a soldier, so she's waiting for him to come back right now. And I told her that maybe she's sitting by her house reminiscing about the good times that they had together. And I think in the first picture especially, she did a really good job portraying that emotion. So yeah, definitely try to create a storyline. And listen, it doesn't have to be anything elaborate like that. Even let's think that you're taking pictures of, you're taking like corporate shots, right? You can tell your client that, imagine that you're a boss that owns a multi-million company and you just came here on a Bentley and you like put people in their place every day. You know, tell them a story that they can actually like recreate, and they can like feel the emotion that you want them to portray, and it's gonna make it a lot easier for the model to understand exactly what you want out of them. All right, so now let's go into the photo shoot itself. And I'm gonna give you guys a few tips and tricks on what I do to make the person relax at the very beginning. Because let me tell you, it does not matter if you're shooting with someone that's been modeling for years, or if you're shooting with someone that's like you know, a regular person that never done a photo shoot in their life. Everyone is always a little bit more anxious, a little bit more nervous at the very, very beginning. So I do a few of these things to just kind of ease them into the photo shoot and make it a lot more comfortable for them. So I always start with the sitting poses. So again, seems like a very simple tip, but trust me, it is so, so important, and it's gonna make your photo shoot go so much easier. So think about it, when you're standing, you have to hold on, you kind of have to support your full body, right? It's not very comfortable just to stand there, and you have to think about the position of your legs, the position of your back and of your arms. But when you sit down in the chair, you get to actually relax. You actually get to lean, and it makes it a lot more comfortable and a lot easier. Plus now, think of how many poses you can come up with just the position of the legs. I mean, you can cross them over, or like, let's say in the third picture here, she's like putting her legs in like a really cool position. You can lean your arms on the armrest. You can lean with your back. It just makes it so much easier. So trust me, on your next photo shoot, start out with the sitting pose and you will see that the model feels a lot more comfortable, and it's a lot easier for them to come up with like more natural kind of poses. So super easy in the studio, you just need a chair. But what do you do if you're outside? Well, you can also get them to sit down on the grass, on the ground, not a big deal. Don't worry about it. Don't worry that it's gonna make your client feel weird. Trust me, they're gonna thank you afterwards because it's gonna make them feel just so much better. So usually what I do is I look for a nice little patch of grass that looks clean-ish, or I will usually bring a little cloth that you can put on the ground, and then you can get them to sit on the cloth in case they have like expensive clothing that they don't want to get messed up. Or another tip, sometimes if I forget to bring anything, a reflector cover is a great thing to just put underneath the model so that she can sit on top of it. Okay, so even if you're outdoors, try out the sitting pose, and trust me, it's going to be just so much easier. Another thing that you can do at the very beginning is to actually reserve your best ideas and locations for the end of the photo shoot. So pretty much because, like I told you guys, at the very beginning we're usually nervous and anxious, and I mean not just the model, the photographer as well. Like I would always feel really anxious at the beginning of the photo shoot, especially if I was shooting with like a new person that I've never met before, new client. So start out with something really basic, something that you know really well, and then reserve some of the cooler poses, something more advanced, and some of the locations that you really like at the very end, because that's when you both are gonna warm up and both are gonna be a lot more comfortable with each other, and that's when you're gonna get the best results. These images that you see, I've taken all of them at the very end of the photo shoot, and they're always my favorite pictures. Another thing that you can do is use a fan. So this is something I discovered for myself pretty recently, actually. So during lockdowns, I started taking self-portraits, and it was a little bit hard for me to get comfortable in front of the camera. But as soon as I put a fan in front of me and I got that hair flowing everywhere, I don't know what it is, but it really makes you feel really good. It makes you feel like, I don't know, like a Victoria's Secret supermodel or something. So after that, I was like, wow, it really works. It really makes you feel more confident. So I started then using a fan for all of my other photo shoots and clients, and they loved it. Like, you can definitely see a huge difference once you turn on that fan. So if you do not have one, any fan will work. Really, it doesn't have to be anything super expensive, anything like extravagant. The only thing I would recommend is to get the fan that is a round head. That way it's just a little bit easier to actually direct it into a certain position that you want, and get the one that you can actually tilt a little bit. And this is how I use it. You can see it in the second picture. Plus, not only does it make your model feel more comfortable and confident, it looks really good. So definitely get a fan. I'm actually even thinking of getting like an outdoor fan. If you guys have any recommendations for me, leave them in the comments down below, because I'm gonna hunt for a fan that I can take out outdoors. All right, so okay, this one is probably one of my favorite tips, is to use props. So again, not only props are amazing, they elevate the image, they tell a story, but they also are just a great tool for you to make the model come up with more natural kind of poses. Whenever we don't have anything in our hands, it's a little bit hard to figure out what to do with them. Like, how to put them, this, that, you know. But if you have something to hold on to, it makes it a lot easier to come up with like organic poses. So I highly recommend getting props for your photo shoot. And listen, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. One of my favorite props is actually flowers. I don't know why I didn't put it here in like as an example, because I use flowers in almost all of my photo shoots. It's an easy prop that looks good with anyone, with any kind of location. It's just accessible. You can get it at any time at any store. So definitely would recommend having fake flowers or real flowers on hand that you can use in your photo shoot. I also love books. I think they're very romantic. They look really beautiful, and it's an easy way to incorporate it into a photo shoot. There's a million poses you can think of that incorporate a model holding a book. I love hats because you can put them on your hat as an accessory. You can hold on to the hat. I love vintage cameras, obviously, so I often incorporate them as props. But really, it can be absolutely anything. It can be a full-on bicycle, like I have in the second picture. We came up with so many really cool poses around this bicycle. In the first one, I have a vase with sand, which is a really cool prop. And in the third one, an umbrella, another super easy prop that you can incorporate. And again, look at all the poses. Look at all the poses that we were able to come up with just by using the props. Another one that you can do if you don't have the props, let's say, for example, you can pose the model around the environment. So it can be anything as simple as a branch, like in the first picture where the model is holding on to the branch and posing with it, or in the second one where she is leaning towards the branch. Or in the third one where she's like leaning in for a little sniff of the flower. Again, just kind of finding something that the model can actually interact with, that she can grab onto, that she can like make herself busy with, is gonna make it so much easier and so much more natural. Like I said in the beginning, I'm not a huge fan of like put your arm at the 90 degrees, or like you have to show the neck, or you have to show this. There's so many ways that you can position someone, but to me the most beautiful way, the one that reads really nice, is the poses that just look natural and comfortable to the model. These ones actually is incorporating few of the tips together. So in the first picture, the model is sitting, and we are incorporating the environment as she's sitting on a log. I love looking for logs. Whenever I'm in the park, I always look for like stumps and logs, because I know that this will be a nice spot for the model to sit on. In the second one, we are incorporating a prop and the environment. So the model is leaning onto the tree, plus she's holding on to the hat. And then the third one, again, we're doing the prop plus the environment. So she's holding on to a basket, and then with the other hand, she's looking onto the tree with a bunch of apples. We also did a lot of pictures of her actually picking the apples and putting them in the basket. So again, if you just find something for the model to interact with, it's just going to make it so much easier. And as you can see, it can be absolutely anything. It doesn't have to be anything really crazy. Also, actually, if I go back to this one, that's another example of interacting with the environment in the third picture with the umbrella. She's holding the umbrella, and she's also leaning onto the pole. So let's say you're not in the park, you're in the urban environment. It can be something like the stairs. Let's put her sitting on the stairs, or let's lean onto the rail. Let's sit on the bench, things like that. So always look for something interesting to interact with. Oh, okay, that's another one that I love doing. This one is even easier than all of the other tips that I told you guys before, because this you can literally pick off of the ground. This is what I do in like so many of my photo shoots. And the first one, just to make it more interesting and to give her something to hold on to, I picked few of the leaves from the ground and let her hold the leaves. So now one of her arms is busy with something, and it's just a lot easier for her to like move it around, do something cool with it. And the second one, again, we have the flowers that I just picked And then in the third one, another leaf. So you can make it work even with a leaf. Super, super easy. It doesn't have to be anything extravagant, anything crazy, all right? Okay, so let's go into communication, which is so, so important when you're working with the model. A few things I want to talk about. First of all, staying vocal. So one of the things, so I did a little bit of modeling a long, long time ago when I just like started doing photography. I would model for some of my friend photographers. And one of the things I really did not like is when the photographer is staying completely silent, not giving any encouragement, not giving any comments, right? So it's very, very important to stay vocal during the photo shoot. You as a photographer, you're the one that's supposed to lead the photo shoot, okay? So it's very important for you to do that. Now, anything even as simple as like, yes, I love that. Keep doing it. Yes, you're doing great. You're doing amazing. So just simple things like that will make it just so much better than completely staying silent. Never do that because that makes things very, very awkward. Complimenting. Definitely compliment the model, but I do want to tell you guys that I always recommend to complimenting the model's work, not the model's looks. Avoid saying things like you're sexy or you're gorgeous. Never really say that because again might make things seem awkward. Always compliment what she's doing. You're doing amazing. Oh my god, that pose looks so good. I just love what you're coming up with. You're so creative. Things like that. Encourage what she's doing rather how she's looking. Show the back of the camera. Okay, so this one, I know a lot of people that are just starting out are really afraid to show the back of the camera to the model. I definitely did that. I would show the back and I would be like, don't worry, I'm gonna edit this. This is gonna look way better. But trust me, showing the back of the camera is really, really important because the model has no idea of what she's actually looking like on the other side. And once you actually show her, she's going to be able to see exactly what the things are looking, how you want her to be, to pose. So it's a really, really great way of, communicating with your model. Show the back of the camera. Now, don't be afraid to tell the model when the pose is not working. I've seen this one a lot. And I totally get it. A lot of photographers are more shy, or like you don't want to make it awkward and tell someone that like what they're doing doesn't look good, but trust me, she will thank you for it because no one wants to like keep doing like a weird pose, and not looking good and you not tell them. It's the equivalent of like you have something stuck in your teeth and no one is telling you about it. So definitely tell the model if the pose is not working. Don't say like you look ugly, but you can say stuff like this pose is not really working. Can you change it up a little bit, or can you maybe move your chin to this side? Things like that. But definitely tell them. Don't waste both of your times with the poses that is not really working. Now this one, explain the composition, lighting, and your technique. I always explain to my model, first of all, the composition that I'm doing at the time. If I'm shooting from the waist up, I always tell her, hey, so for these pictures, we're doing waist up so that she can actually relax her legs. She doesn't have to think about them, so she can focus on specifically moving the top part of her body. Explain the lighting to her as well. You might think that the model might not know a lot about like the cameras, the techniques, or the lighting, but trust me, like if you explain few things, it's going to be a lot easier for them to understand exactly what you're seeing. So tell them that the light is coming from this side, so maybe you should turn your head more towards the light. And explain your technique if you're doing anything that requires specific way of posing. Let's say if I'm shooting with a manual lens, I always tell the model, hey, I'm shooting with the manual lens, which means that it's a little bit harder for me to focus. Takes a little bit longer time, so make sure that your poses are really slow and don't change your pose too much, right? So explain these things to your models and trust me, they will thank you for it. Decide on the speed of changing the poses. This one, I always communicate to the models at the very start of the photo shoot. So for me personally, I like a very fluid type of posing. I don't like when the model changes the poses like this, like per each click, like boom, boom, boom. I prefer a more fluid, she's just doing her thing, she's posing around, and then when I see the shot that I like, I will tell her. So before the photo shoot starts, I will explain to her that this is exactly how I'm working, so that we're both on the same page. So again, communication is just so important. Decide on the eye contact preference. There's another big one. So for me personally, I love the eye contact. So I will tell the model, hey, I really love the eye contact. So 90% of the time you're going to be looking straight into my lens. I always love the eye contact. And then I will tell her, if I do need you to look away, I will tell you. So when you're posing, just look straight into the lens. And then if I need you to look somewhere else, I will tell you, right? So depending on what you like, I would definitely specify that with the model. Make sure that your model is always comfortable. Okay, so this one is a big one that, again, I see a lot of people get really excited about the photo shoot, and like they get caught up in the shooting that they don't take the time to actually make sure that the model is comfortable. Every 15 minutes or so, I like to ask my model, are you doing good? Do you need some water? Do you need a break? Are you hungry? You know, just simple things like that, again, will make the model feel a lot more comfortable, a lot more welcome to the photo shoot, and she will know that you're taking care of her or him. So definitely make sure that your model is always comfortable. Like if I'm shooting outdoors and it's really cold, I'm always bringing a blanket for them. I'm always making sure that they're doing good. Okay, then last one I want to talk about when it comes to communication is to not over direct. So that's another one that I personally didn't really like when I was modeling, is when photographers get a little bit too over directive of like, you know, put your finger here, move it just a little bit here, now tilt your head, now like pull it back. Don't be a ventriloquist? A puppeteer, ventriloquist. That's the word. So don't do that. Give them some creative freedom to come up with some poses, you know. Yeah, definitely do not over direct the model. Alrighty, so like I said, I don't really like a lot of rules, but there's few that I think are universally just, you know, better to do and like things to avoid. Specifically for like the kind of photography that I do, and like if you guys are watching it, I'm assuming you like my kind of photography. So let's look at both of these pictures. To be honest, the first one is not bad, you know, it's a pretty good picture, but you know, you can think, does she have legs or does she not have legs? It makes her look a lot more stubby and short this way. Whereas in the second picture, we can see the legs. They're elongating her body and they're creating a lot more interesting kind of angles. So whenever you have, you know, a long dress especially, I highly recommend showing off the legs specifically from the knee. So you don't have to go higher, but as when you're showing the knee and down, it will make the model look taller, longer, leaner, and it will just, you know, we know now that she has legs indeed. So definitely if someone has long dress, showcase the knees, okay, the knees up. Now let's say you've done that, there's a few other things that you can do wrong. So in the first picture, first of all, her legs are in kind of an awkward position, but they're also on the side, which again makes her legs look shorter, especially if we compare it to the picture on the right, where she put the legs in front of the camera and extended them closer to the lens. That makes her legs look super long. She looks very lean, and it just looks so much better. So with legs, again, knees up and extend the legs, always trying to elongate them. The last thing about the legs, I know I'm a little bit obsessed with legs. Like if you scroll through any of my pictures, there's I just love showcasing them because again, I just find that it makes the picture more interesting and more flattering. So another thing that I always do is keep an eye on the toes. All right, so in the first picture, she just has her feet flat. And in the second one, she's pointing her toes like a ballerina. I like to call them like ballerina toes, and that's what I tell all my models. I'm like, do the ballerina toes, ballerina toes. So pretty much, not only does it look more elegant and beautiful, in my opinion, but also it will elongate the leg even more. Again, it's just adding a little bit of that length with the toes pointed up, and her legs look longer and more lean, okay? So another thing that I would just avoid specifically for plus size girls or boys, I would just avoid showing off any part of the body that's at its widest. So here with the arm, she's kind of pushing the arm a little bit into her body, which kind of what we naturally do when we pose, especially if we are nervous. So I would recommend either bringing the arm out from the body or just twisting the model slightly so that we're not seeing the widest part, we're seeing the smallest part, okay? But again, with all of these that I just showed you guys, just want you to keep in mind that these are just guidelines, okay? These are like, these can be broken at any time if you feel like it, if it doesn't work. It's just something to keep in mind, but it doesn't have to be like a rule that you 100% follow on any of your photo shoots. All right, another thing that you can do for a more flattering angle is using a step ladder. So if you follow my channel for a while, you know that I'm a huge advocate of step ladders. Hashtag ladder gang, that's what we do on my channel. So a ladder is amazing for multiple reasons, but what I really love is that when you step up a little bit higher, you'll be able to get that super flattering angle from the top. Literally everyone looks more flattering from this angle. So whatever client you have, someone that's a model, someone that's not a model, someone that's plus size, someone that's not, it's gonna look great on all of them, okay? So if you don't have a step ladder yet, they're super cheap. Go to Home Depot, tell them Irene sent you. I don't have a discount code, sorry.
Home Depot affiliate program.
But get the step ladder and trust me, it's a game changer. All right, we're getting almost to the end, but there's few more things. So fluid posing. I absolutely love doing this. And this is actually another reason why I got the mirrorless camera, is because I love doing these fluid poses when the model is constantly moving and I'm trying to take a picture of her. With the R5 is like extremely easy, and with the face recognition. But pretty much, yeah, what you're gonna do is get the model to move, to twirl. In the first one, that's exactly what I told her. I told her, give me a twirl, give me a nice twirl. You're the princess in the dead forest. And that's what she did, that's what she gave me, and we came up with this beautiful picture. In the second one, I told the model to constantly play with her hair. So I told her, move your hair just constantly, flip it around, move it, just give me some movement. And this is the second picture that we came up with. And in the third one, I told her, continuously pour the sand, just do something cool with it. You know, pour the sand and play with it, okay? And this is the third picture that we came up with. So again, like when you get the person to actually do the movement, then it's gonna look extremely natural, right? So don't be afraid to get them to move, to actually do some kind of action, okay? And when you have props, it's even easier, okay? So get the props in there as well. Okay, the last thing we're gonna talk about is self-portraits. Self-portraits are, again, just awesome in general. If you've never taken a self-portrait, I highly, highly recommend that you guys do it. Do it like tomorrow, okay? They don't have to be posted online if you don't want to. This is something I want you to do so you grow yourself, so you grow as a photographer, so you learn a few things. You know, with self-portraits, you can experiment with lighting, you can experiment with cool techniques, but you can also experiment with posing, and you can learn a bunch of different poses that you can do. And the most importantly, you will be able to feel what the model feels. You will be able to relate to them, to know how it feels to be on the other side of the camera, how to have that pressure on you, how to, you know, have the pressure of coming up with the ideas and the poses. You will be able to like you know, to relate to the model a lot more. So 100% recommend you guys taking self-portraits. And again, if you have the new mirrorless camera, it's so something like the R6 or the R or even the RP, you can connect them to your phone and use the app to remotely trigger them, and so it makes it super easy to take self-portraits. So if you have never taken a self-portrait, highly, highly recommend that you guys do it. So yeah, this is the end of the presentation. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want to see more, you can head on to my YouTube channel. I have like hundreds of tutorials on whatever photography theme you can even imagine. So yeah.
Awesome. And we have lots of great questions for you throughout the chat. And so if you guys have more, keep them coming and we'll get to as many as we can. So I'd say the most popular question that I've seen in the emails as well as the chat is all about the costumes and the outfits that your models are wearing. Can you just talk a little bit about whether or not the models are providing them or how you're providing them and what that relationship looks like?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so it really depends on the photographer. For me personally, styling is part of what I do. So I provide all of the costumes, I provide all of the clothing for the photo shoots. One of my favorite ways to find these is going thrifting. Thrift shops, secondhand shops, vintage shops, any place has one. I know people always tell me, I don't have a nice thrift shop. I don't have a good vintage shop in my area. Don't lie to me. I'm pretty sure you have one. Thrift shops could be found anywhere. The biggest thing with thrifting is actually going there multiple times, going there a lot. So I go thrifting at least a few times a month to find some cool things. And sometimes I will find lots of items. And sometimes I go and there's nothing, right? So thrifting is a great way. If you're doing fashion, which I kind of did a little bit at the very beginning, what I could recommend, I mean, it's something that a lot of stylists do. You can rent out clothing or you can buy and return. That's another thing that I've done before for photo shoots. Just have to make sure that you don't damage any of the clothing and you're super, super careful with it. But my preferred way is obviously thrifting. You can, after you use the clothing, you can, if you don't want to keep them, you can sell them again. Vintage pieces are always in demand. You can sell them to other photographers or like in photography communities. So yeah, thrifting is the way to go.
The way to go.
So how do you feel, you touched on it a little bit during the conversation there, but how do you feel your work has really changed since you started? Do you have like a completely different vision or is it just more refined now, partially because you've got, you know, better equipment that you originally started with?
Oh my goodness, I think my work did change quite a lot. At the very beginning, I actually wanted to be a fashion photographer. That's what I wanted to do. I was really inspired by photographers like Elizaveta Porodina. Like her work is super, super amazing. And yeah, I just wanted like my work to be in magazines. Like I felt that that would be like the peak of my career if I could shoot for a magazine. But over the time, I just kind of figure out what I actually really love and what works for me. At some point, I did stay away from the kind of work that I do now because people told me that I won't be able to make money off of it, or like it's not commercial enough. It's too pretty, you know, like who's gonna book these kind of photo shoots with you? And so I stayed away from them, but at some point I realized that I just need to do what makes me happy. And so when I started just embracing doing the photo shoots that I really just want to do, like I'm not doing them to make money, I'm not doing them to please anyone, I'm doing them just for me. This is when I came up with, you know, with the kind of style that I have right now. So I think it just took more confidence, like self-confidence in myself to kind of develop this kind of style and have the kind of work that I do now.
Nice. We have a question from another Irene Ortiz, who's wondering, I think what the question is what lenses are you using to build your kit? Like what kind of focal lengths do you enjoy using most?
So whenever people ask me, I always tell them that the best starting lens for portraits is a 50mm. It's super versatile. You will be able to use it indoors and outdoors. Even like going with something like the nifty 50, you know, like the 50mm 1.8 is a great choice to start. But if you're talking about my personal kit, like what I have right now, my most favorite lens in the world is the Canon 85mm 1.2. It can be the RF version or the EF version. My first one was actually the EF Mark 1. It's like the oldest one, the super slow one, and it was my favorite lens ever. So yeah, me personally, I really love the 85 millimeters. I think it's just like perfect for portraits.
Awesome. We have another question from the chat here from Dina Imagery, wondering if you pay your models or if it's just exposure for exposure. Yeah.
I think it really depends on what project you're working on. My thing is, if I'm getting paid, the model is getting paid. If I'm not getting paid, then the model is not getting paid. So yeah, if I'm working on something, on a project that's like an actual work, then of course she will be compensated for her time. But if we're collaborating on a creative concept, then we're both just collaborating and we're both doing it for fun. We're both doing it to get some awesome pictures, right? So it really depends on what it is that you're working on.
Awesome. So I love that tip you gave about creating a story for a model. Like that was a great tip. But how much time do you invest before the shoot in creating something like that?
Yeah, so for me personally, over the time of doing photography, I figured out that it doesn't really work when I just have like a, let's shoot, you know, like let's just go out and shoot and just kind of see what happens. That, I mean, sometimes it does work out, but it's never something that I'm super proud of. But whenever I really put in a lot of time and effort and thought into the concept, into the costumes, into the location, finding out the perfect model, then, you know, I already invested so much time that I have to make it work. I have to make it, you know, look really good. That's when I feel like my work really shines. So I actually put a lot of work and effort into my photo shoots. Yeah, and I definitely recommend people, for anyone to do the same. It doesn't have to be hours and hours of preparing, but definitely putting some thought beforehand. And even for me, actually what really works is visualizing exactly what you want the pictures to look like. So if I'm going into something without really in my head picturing what it's going to look like after, it's a lot harder to actually produce it than digitally in the camera. But if I already have that image in my head of what I want it to look like, then it's a lot easier to translate it into real life.
Okay, another couple questions that we've seen throughout the chat is about locations, how you select your locations, what kind of scouting do you do prior to meeting up with the model, and then the other one is about makeup artists, if you're using a specific makeup artist or if you have the model follow direction on how to do their own, just those two questions.
Oh my God, locations. I mean, I love shooting outdoors. So honestly, I can probably make any outdoor location work, but I love parks. I love tall trees, bushes, flowers, that kind of stuff is like one of my favorites. But really any kind of cool location that I can imagine like a storyline being built with it can work. It can be in the mountains or it can be in the desert, let's say, for example, right? So it can be really anything. There's nothing like in particular that I look for. Yeah, except for maybe a lot of greenery, a lot of just like nature. Nature is like what I really love in my photography. When it comes to, actually with location, I will tell you this. So like the location doesn't matter as much to me, but what really matters is the lighting. So I would say, location can be ugly, location can be not so beautiful, but if you have that beautiful golden light, you can make it work and you can make it look really beautiful. So for me, the more important thing is actually the lighting, the time of the day when I'm shooting. And I'm usually shooting golden hour, just 2 hours before the sunset. When it comes to makeup, so I started actually doing makeup myself now on the models. So, and I like really natural, simple kind of makeup, but very often I will ask the model just to do her own makeup. What I usually ask her is to do natural, blush and mascara. Literally, that's it. I'll tell her just do a little bit of blush, some mascara, and like a little bit of coverage. That's it. But it really depends on the person you're photographing. Someone might need more coverage if they want to look flawless, so then maybe you will need to get a makeup artist. So yeah, it just really depends on the situation. But for me personally, mostly, if very natural makeup that the model can do herself, or I will do like a little bit of touch up here and there.
Okay, another question from the chat is, do you plan your palette before shooting? Your color palette?
So I do and I don't at the same time. So usually I will, how do I explain this? So I actually have this trick that I like to do, and it is with using pastels and neutral colors. So pastels and neutrals will look good in any location, with any lighting, on any skin tone. So to kind of trick the color palette, one of the things that I do is use pastels and neutrals, especially when it comes to like clothing. But if I am using some really strong colors, then I will plan out my palette. So let's say that the model is going to be wearing a red outfit. Then if I'm shooting in the studio, I will probably pick up the backdrop that will complement the red outfit, so something like a green or a blue backdrop, or maybe red as well to make it all like monochromatic. But yeah, most of the time I do the little trick, and then if I have some strong colors in there, then I will plan it out.
Nice. So when it comes to all your shooting and you plan it out as much as you can, is there something that is sort of consistently the biggest challenge for every shoot? Is it the actual shoot? Is it post-production? Where are you finding that you would say it's the biggest challenge for you?
For me, the biggest challenge as mainly natural light photographer is the weather condition. You know, sometimes I plan for the beautiful golden hour and everything, you know, the theme and the feeling that I want is happy and sunny, and then we get rain, right? So that's one of the biggest challenges, is the weather, and there's nothing that you can do about it. So a tip I can give you guys is to not be afraid to reschedule the photo shoot if it needs to be rescheduled. I do it all the time because I would rather not waste like our time, like mine, the models, the team's time, and reschedule it for the day when I actually have beautiful weather, when I can create some beautiful images.
Irene, we've had a few questions and actually comments just talking about your YouTube channel and how they love watching your tutorial videos and just the behind the scenes of your shoots. And then we've had some questions just about how you produce those videos, if you're working with a videographer or if you work with a variety of them. So what's your story there?
Oh my goodness. I'm like the most like low quality when it comes to like the video itself, like quality wise and stuff like that, I feel like. So for the longest time I would shoot everything myself. It would be as simple as bringing a camera on a tripod and setting it up, you know, and hoping that it's actually recording and it's actually capturing me and the model together. And nowadays, my husband actually films all of my YouTube videos. We've upgraded a little bit. We have like a nice gimbal, and the setup that I use for as a camera, I'm using the Canon R6 with the kit lens. And yeah, that looks really great. It shoots beautiful 4K footage. And we use a giant gimbal to put the camera on the gimbal. You see, like, I'm not a technical
Do you have, actually, somebody wanted
that.
to know if you have advice for someone that's a photographer that wants to start
yeah,
a YouTube
yeah,
channel.
I do have advice.
Yeah?
So I would say just, the biggest advice is to just start, okay?
Just
so like
do it.
that, yeah, just do it. I remember I was like, okay, I'm gonna wait till I have a better camera. I'm gonna wait till I have better lighting. I'm gonna wait till I have this and that. But the reality is that you're not going to be good when you start anyway. So like that better camera is not going to really help, or that lighting is not going to help. But the faster you start, the faster you're going to get better at it, right? So if you really want to do it, just start it now with whatever you have. And as you progress, you're going to become better at filming yourself, as like looking at yourself, you know, then hearing back the recording of yourself talking, which is really awkward. So yeah, the biggest thing is just to start with whatever you have. Just do it if that's really something that you're passionate about.
Great. And you talked about you love shooting outside, and when it's a great, nice day, that's fantastic. But as we've experienced last week, it can go from snow to sun overnight, right? And lots of rescheduling. But how do you find about moving into a studio? Was that a big challenge for you to go with sort of an interior lighting?
I love shooting in the studio as well. It's a challenge for me because outdoors is very comfortable. Outdoors is like what I do. Outdoors is something that like I know I'm gonna get a great result. So indoors was challenging, but it was also really fun to figure out. I feel really comfortable indoors now. I've used a variety of things like LED lights and flash and strobe. I've used on-camera flash indoors. I've used just window lighting when it's available. I've shot on my deck if I could. I've even shot in a little shed that I have in my backyard. I made it into like a little studio because the lighting in there is really beautiful. So yeah, I really love shooting indoors, but my biggest challenge is that I feel like it gets a little bit repetitive. When I'm outdoors, there's just so much variety that I can do with the environment, with the posing, with like the different look. When I'm indoors, I'm a lot more limited. So that's my only gripe with shooting indoors, is that I just love being creative. I love having the freedom. So that's why I do still prefer shooting outdoors.
Okay, so we have a few more questions that we're going to get to. Mateo Maiden wants to know, do you usually try to meet the model's tastes in posing and how they'd want to be photographed in the photos?
No, I feel like that's something that I used to do when I was just starting out, because I was really shy and I didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings, you know. I would tend to even take on like the ideas of the makeup artist, and over the time I realized that it's just not worth doing these things unless it's something that you like as well. So for me, if it's not something that I don't want to photograph, I'm not going to photograph it, right? Unless it's a paying client, I guess. But if you're doing, if you're doing just a collaboration, then it's going to be my concept. It's going to be my idea. It's going to be exactly what I envisioned. And hopefully the model, will cooperate and we will create some really cool pictures together. When you're working with the client, it's a little bit different, because obviously you want to please the client and you want to do what they're asking you. But at the same time, if it's something completely out of your style, if it's something that you never do and something that you just don't like, then it's probably worth to not even take on that client just in general.
All right. Evelyn touched on it earlier. You're very good at Photoshop as well. So how much does Photoshop play into your images? When you see something, you photograph it. Are you thinking, I can get rid of that in post-production, or I'm going to manipulate this, get rid of a tree branch, or something like that?
It really depends. So my philosophy is that if I can do it in camera, then I will. And then things that are like impossible to do in camera, then, I will leave it to post-production. So like, clearing up the skin and like color toning the image. But with branches and things like that, I mean, if I can remove the branch, I will do it manually so I don't have to spend more time in Photoshop. Same comes with lighting. I always make sure that the lighting looks beautiful in the picture and that I can get the most out of the location and everything in camera, and then I will do adjustments in Photoshop. For me, what I spend the time most on is skin retouch, as I do dodge and burn, and that, although is labor intensive, it's time intensive, but it creates really, really beautiful, natural looking results. So yeah, for me it's mostly skin retouch, dodge and burn, and then some color toning. Color toning, I spend a lot of time in Photoshop as well, just to kind of give my images a little bit of a fairy tale feel to them, so they don't look bland, so they don't look straight out of camera, pretty much.
So just to wrap things up, Irene, I just want to stress that if you are not a subscriber to Irene's channel, you need to go to Irene Rudnyk's YouTube channel and subscribe, because she always has amazing behind the scenes stuff of all of her work. She's done Photoshop tutorials and all kinds of things, and so make sure that you follow her there if you want to learn more about posing, working with models, thrifting, creating all of these different types of portraits.
No, what's great is that, there's some tips and tricks that I've learned today that I didn't really realize before.
Yeah.
And it's great. So you never stop learning, and it's great that you're such a good resource for this.
Absolutely. And so we want to thank Canon Canada again for sponsoring this event. And as we said at the beginning, we have the Canon Level Up sales event. If you're in Canada, you can shop thecamerastore.com for all of the great deals. And if you registered for this event through Eventbrite, we will be sending you an email with a special offer as well. And if you didn't register, make sure you email Riley. Her email address is down below in the description. And thanks again, Irene. This was fantastic. And thanks for your patience with some of our technical difficulties. You know, we appreciate you guys hanging on and enjoying this TCSTV Live.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you guys. I hope you all enjoyed this live stream. I really enjoyed it. I think it was really fun. Thank you guys again for having me.
Awesome, thanks.